As famed dungeon masters, the Backstreet Boys once said, when praising their players, I don't care who you are, where you're from, don't care what you do, as long as you plan your turn in advance. For fuck's sake. Hey, welcome to Homebrew, the show where we avoid the crushing dullness of everyday life using our two favorite forms. Can you tell I'm not comfortable in my chair? Is that obvious on stream as I'm bouncing around? Our favorite forms of escapism, alcohol, and a thing we call Dungeons and Dragons. Pretty sure other people call it that too, but hey. Speaking of alcohol, let's get introduced to the brews of the week. I'm back on an old favorite. This is a little fawn, of which I haven't, it's not that I've drank half, it's just in a smaller can. So that's what I've been drinking, but working our way around. Probably not in overlay appearance, but in the way I see you on my screen. Lucy, what are you drinking today?
I am drinking a brew from, I've got a mug of Barry's tea, and I also have a mug of Lemsip, because I thought they would cool at slightly different speeds, so they'll last me a bit longer. So that's just a cool trick. I want to,
Hot tip.
Yeah,
hot to tepid tip.
If you don't top it up with cold water, I mean, you can wait a half an hour and it'll still be good. So
cool.
So I'm have a buzz soon. A bit of paracetamol buzz.
Yeah. You'll be on that sweet medicinal high.
Exactly.
Stream all good over there, Paul? I'm seeing was it just chat? Chat have got up. That's just the usual delay.
As in Isaac's stream didn't start, so he's like the 30 seconds of the 30 seconds behind kind of thing, so you can just move the counter forward if you wanted. Hi Isaac, how's it going?
Hello. We're from the future.
We are 30 seconds ahead. Man, that would be terrifying if there was like a nuclear fallout and you saw a stream and then 30 seconds, like, wow, imagine that. Oh, anyway, I actually don't. That's terrifying. Paul, what are you drinking?
I am currently packing and have stupidly packed some of the things from this room into boxes, so I have nothing to drink right now. So I'm just drinking Lucozade. Not sponsored by Lucozade or anything like that. Just plain old Lucozade. But
we are sponsored by Barry's and Lemsip.
Yes, we are. Yeah.
We're leaving money on the table there,
But I do want to shout out. There's I will shout out eventually some Instagram thing that I have a lot of cocktails that I really want to try with them. So I'll probably give that at the end of the break or something like that. Because there's a massive amount of cocktails. Or
unless you need to look it up, right?
I need to look it up because I've been trying a couple of their cocktails, and although they have a lot of Mountain Dew in them, which we can't really get, they are phenomenally really good. And they also do what I like is they also do they do the alcohol and the alcohol-free version. So, which the recipes are actually quite different, but they taste the same.
Take their Mountain Dew, replace it with our version of Mountain Dew whiskey, and you'll be having a great time.
Yeah, double up on the alcohol. Like dash of rum and some of Irish Mountain Dew, which is Paddy's.
Tullamore Dew.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So,
and Kelan, what are you drinking?
I'm finally drinking something that I had for a while, the beer that refreshes, which is a picture of a hand holding a thing. It is a, what is it now? 6% cola, cinnamon, and marshmallow drink. I always hate marshmallow in beers.
Every stream.
Not every stream. Just sometimes they sound nice, and I go, maybe the marshmallow won't. That might have happened in this case because it kind of tastes like if Coke was alcoholic, I guess, which is probably what they were going for. The marshmallow gives it too much sweetness, so I'd say it's probably tastes of Coke Zero sweetener.
Those are two of your strong interests, Kelan, combined. This is a big day.
Well, the cinnamon was what drew me to it, but yeah, I think it's really nice. I think it's actually possibly the only nice beer ever to have a marshmallow thing in it. But
would you call it refreshing?
It is refreshing. It's refreshing because I have it actually cool to a proper temperature, and it just tastes like a delicious flat Coke. Which I guess sounds bad, but
Yeah, I was going to say that's not that great, is it?
I said delicious first.
Yeah, he did.
Oh yeah. Sorry, you did caveat with the deliciousness. So I apologize.
Like ages ago when I described the other thing as like delicious toothpaste or mouthwash or whatever else. You know, it's the same thing. People forget about the delicious. They only listen to the second comparison.
Yeah.
You know?
If you're drinking anything in the snug, our little sidebar over here, do let us know. And if you're watching the VOD below, drop a little comment and let us know what you're drinking. We might use it in a future episode. Although I should, speaking of caveat this episode. You might have seen we posted across our socials, in our Discord. If you're not following us or in there, go do that. Because you'll get cool updates like this. This is a little bit of a strange episode. We're sort of doing the epilogue of the last episode. Ben, you might ask, how? Wes isn't here, and you'll find out. But because it was quite a thrilling ending. And here's a little fun thing for everyone who saw episode 69. You are one episode ahead of Lucy, who did not see the ending. So she's going to find out live with Huck's recap what happened. No, it's a little unfair. You watched most of it, just not the last bit. And the last bit is where we really ramped it up to 90. So you're going to see what happened, and everyone watching can watch Lucy's reaction live. That's exciting.
It's going to be real weird. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. So we'll wrap that up because we're building up to something a little bit bigger for episode 71. We need a little bit of time for it. Essentially, we tried to get there in the last episode, but something so big happened that we're like, oh, fuck, let's just leave it there. So we're just going to kind of tie a little ribbon on that. And then in the part 2 of this, we'll do a Q&A. If you're watching this on VOD and you're doing, well, this is just like a little short episode, whereas the Q&A, we've probably cut the episode bit out, uploaded it just by itself, just to keep the little playlist going. And then if you look just through our general videos, you'll find both stuck together the way they were on live. You don't have to do that, but it's something a little extra special for our live viewers who we cherish and adore. And I can see we have some Yaki Red, a Crusher IPA, a Neon Beer Hug, a Tropical Beer Hug, a Hazy Beer Hug, a Secret Beer Hug. They're the Beer Hug family, of course. Yeah. All from Goose Island. What a terrifying place. We got some...
Tom said whiskey, but what brand? Because that could majorly affect what we can use it for. So
yeah. Drop it in.
I really hope it's teachers. That'd be great. There's a flood of teachers come in.
Yeah, or can we just invent whichever one it is that we decide? You know. Yeah.
Just have a little, I don't know, John's Lane. It's quite a good whiskey.
This is Writer's Tears. Ben has to give up all of his notes, and
we've done that.
Try on screen.
True.
And of course,
okay, I think that's... water. Yeah, I don't have any of them. I made some because I got one of those drink make things, of which historically on the show I like to fizz things that aren't water. But yeah, I'll go get that at the break. I'm also going to make myself a little whiskey sour at the break for the chat part of it because it's a little chill and I don't have to pay attention to my notes.
Oh, James, Stout edition.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, I've been interested about that. So it was barrel aged in a stout cask. Is that right, Tom?
Sounds interesting.
Oh, and then we'll wait 30 seconds for him to answer.
Yeah.
But...
That was very sports and edgy. Did I hear that right, Tom? That was barrel aged in a stout barrel. Oh, over to you, Tom.
Hi, Tom.
On the ground. Yep. Mountain by the cup. Okay.
It does bring you into perspective when you start streaming the whole the whole studio to live kind of thing where they're just like, and yeah, I'm standing outside, you know. So
why don't they? And just TV channels, you can take this one for free. Make a sort of 15 to 30 second impressive star wipe that can just bring us from live from the studio to live, and everyone will be entertained. Just a nice little trickle down of effects.
I mean, the question is, why does everyone not use star wipes all the time? You know, I mean, it's usually just normal transitions or some kind of fancy, like, fluid hidden transition somewhere. You look at Star Wars, it's just cheesy wipes every which way you could possibly go, and that's one of the most famous film series of all time. So it can't have been wrong.
Yeah, I don't think it is. Yeah. They made TV shows out of that. That's a successful thing.
Just constant, just star wipe all the time.
Star wipe. Speaking of star wipe, let's star wipe into some housekeeping. We still have our Dakota Irish discount code running. It's Huck Yeah. Huck Yeah. You should see it in the description below. That will get you 10% off your purchase on dakotairish.com. You will find a incredible array, a menagerie of dice, of which we have some to give away live in this sort of special episode that we're teasing. So we'll have a live set of dice to give away. I actually have them here. I can show them to you. They're in this unopened little box. They came in an envelope, but I took them out of the envelope because then you'd know my address, of which I've probably said live on stream before, but these could be yours at episode 71, so stay tuned. But if you cannot wait and you want 10% off, you want to pay 90% of the recommended retail price, you can go to dakotairish.com and put in "Huck yeah" at checkout. And if you're in Ireland, they're testing out a new delivery system. I think it's still going, and you can get it in like 1 to 2 business days, which means if you're playing D&D at the weekend, you'll have these by Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, depending. And it all depends on when you order. That's how it works. And then Heroes Out. What, is there anything coming up on this Thursday's Heroes Out, Paul?
So this Heroes Out is the September roundup. So we do at the end of each month we do a roundup of all the interesting, and also if any kind of news stories comes out during that week, kind of an update for everybody, just to kind of catch up on any entertainment news. It's mostly gonna be, I think anyone who's in the entertainment kind of like bubble is gonna know that we're gonna have a story on probably like Harry Styles and Chris Pine, that whole shenanigans kind of thing. But yeah, there's some interesting things that are also come out this month that a lot of people probably didn't notice or may not have heard, because I also know that Twitch is also going mental, so people may have been looking at that. So, but yeah, so it is
watch Heroes Out the way I watch Heroes Out, which is I take their opinions and pretend they're my own at parties. So.
Well, I'm happy. It's going to be really interesting when we finally get to a party that we're both there, and I'm just like, wait a minute, that's Patrick's opinion.
How dare you not pick my opinion and pick Patrick's opinion?
But yeah, so September news or like entertainment news roundup. That's what we're going to be doing on Thursday. So
very, very cool. I think that brings us to the end of the opening of the show bit. So if we're all ready to play, if we're all feeling good, pull up a chair, grab yourself a drink as we dive into a world where anything is possible, but not always probable. Welcome back to the realm of Hibernia. Huck, Makara, for the people who are catching up, and mainly for Lucy, what have you been up to?
Hiya. Well, sure, we arrived in the Fae, the old, my old gaff, big castle, all the Fae stuff, all the usual, time nonsense and other things going along. I honestly didn't know if I have any concept of speaking to my future self in the future, and or dealing with my memories from the past. I had a wee bit there where I was just remembering the past. I might get there. Anyway, we all arrived, and sure didn't Arlington just immediately see the apparently incredibly obvious and specific wizard-sleeved hand of Tadgh. I mean, he was certain. He couldn't have been more certain that the dismembered hand of his adopted father was just there. I mean, in hindsight, it could have been a trap, but, it's there. So he flew into the rage of all rages. I was obviously concerned. I chased after him because he ran straight into the Fae, and that's dangerous because you run a straight line in the Fae, you absolutely don't arrive in a straight line. You'll arrive from the left and then from the right, and then there's some other directions. I can't really, it's secret Fae information. I can't really give it to filthy normal mortals, as I always say about filthy normal mortals. So
FNMs? Yeah.
FNMs. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard you. Never mind.
Well, you haven't been listening, you filthy.
You're an FNI. You're a filthy normal immortal god. FNIG.
Yeah. Randier's managed to get past the classification. He doesn't know anything about the Fae, but he's lost a whole thing. Anyway, so I was chasing after that. Arlington, it turns out, I mean, even in the Fae, he managed to get very, very far, very, very quickly. So I was just following what seems like he opened the door, and then as the door swung back, it was just everything was covered in blood. At first it was pristine, and then everything was just covered in blood. And then I was just following along. There was blood. There was some wolves, fully clothed in tuxedos, ran past me. That was strange, but not that strange, to be honest. And then there was just a bunch of naked guys at leashes, I think passed out or dead on the ground. And I kept on walking, and sure, didn't I see Arlington in front of a large, massive, what I like to call fireball-sized mob. So I mean, I instantly fireballed them. We got rid of a lot of them. That was great. And we're blasting on through in his, he's in his rage. He's blasting on through. I mean, we spot Lavog. I've jumped down to near where Lavog is. Lavog's doing some stuff. I try to counterspell it. It Disney work. We spot Lavog. He's just spouting all sorts of nonsense and just standing there like this, waiting for Arlington to really flip out and notice him. And Arlington just goes through all of the people there that hadn't been fireballed. He blasts on straight through to Lavog. I give him a haste. This is gonna be great. We're gonna, it's the best. He gets like 12 attacks. It's the most perfect. It's like I think he might crit. I'm not sure, but I don't know if he does. But either way, he basically destroys everything. Everything. There's like 12 attacks. He's doing all the damage. It's everything. And Lavog starts laughing. He's mad. So that's. I mean, evil people. When you kill enough evil people, let me tell you. They're always laughing when you're trying to kill them. That's the last that's their last trick. Never fall for it, So he's blasting on into them, and then out of nowhere, the spell drops, and he starts to turn into Tadgh McGinnis. Yes, and Arlington's father, and Arlington, he's so blinded with rage and everything else that we have. I mean, there was no stopping him. He was already well into his 12 attacks and his crit and everything else.
Wait, who turned into
Lavog.
His father, or
Lavog turned into Tadgh McGinnis while Arlington was in the middle of dismembering him. And Arlington did not stop. At the point that we've stopped, more or less Arlington has eviscerated Tadgh McGinnis. There's no nicer way of disemboweled, nicer way of saying it. Decapitated. And I mean, that's literally where we left. But Arlington had just killed Tadgh McGinnis.
His father, okay.
His father, yes.
At that point in time, you hear Huck from the shadows. And the real Lavog, who had cast an illusion spell over Tadgh McGinnis to make Tadgh look like him, steps out of the shadows. Perfectly done, Grud. Almost exactly to plan. Made it quite easy. Because after all, aren't you just a stupid mere monster in civilian clothing? I didn't know how I'd break your body, but I knew if I started with your mind, this would be easy. And he begins to walk closer to Arlington, who has holding Tadgh's head in his hand, looking at him. His eyes just he is just blank, and he kind of drops to his knees. The world sort of goes dark around Arlington as the light fades from Tadgh's eyes. And all the bandits that you haven't killed from outside begin to step into the hallway. Lavog waves his hand, casting another spell, and they all turn into a visage of Tadgh McGinnis, who begin to circle around Arlington, echoing Lavog's voice. After all, you've only been a dirty bitch boy. Mine to mold, mine to use. I didn't even sound like me in the first illusion. Yes, that's right. What you might have thought was a mistake on the DM's part was actually a theatrical ploy. Because obviously I've always sounded like this. And he gets a little bit closer to Arlington, and he goes, you humiliated me, the sleeve gem. You humiliated me when you left my gang. But you, and he punches him in the kidney, are nothing, punches him again, but a stupid headbutts him. And you can even see that Lavog has sort of like cracked a little bit of his own forehead. Nothing but a stupid monster. You forgot one thing, Arlington. Crime always pays. And I am the debt collector. And he just like slams him down. He walks away. It's almost pathetic how stunned you are. Do your worst, boys. And all of the dirty bitch boys begin to just sort of like proper like toe kick Arlington, completely eviscerate. Like they're just pounding in. Arlington's still like his rage has dropped, but it's still half damage to him because of the sheer shock. And he takes quite the pummeling from all his. Yeah, sure.
In a rage, fireball everyone, hoping that Arlington
Lavog spins his hand and counterspells it.
Counterspell. The counterspell is counterspell.
Nice. Another bandit counterspells your counterspell of his counterspell. We can keep going.
I don't know how many spell slots he has. Again.
Counterspell.
Damn it. Okay, that's all my spell slots.
You're outside, Huck, watching this happen. As it seems like anywhere between 20 to 30 bandits are just getting kind of cheap digs in on Arlington, who is covered in his foster father's blood. How do you feel in this moment?
How do I feel? I mean,
I would have asked Wes, but he's not dead. He's sick.
Yeah. Wait. Tadgh's only sick?
No. Wes, anytime anyone's not in the stream, we promise you they're not dead. They're just sick or busy or doing something else.
Except for that time that we said that Lucy was dead.
Yeah.
She was.
Yeah, it's become a kind of a tradition.
It's an Avril Lavigne situation, Lucy.
Yeah. She went to Brazil and
it's a different Avril.
was replaced with a clone.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'd spot the real Lucy anywhere, and it's not you. I feel, absolutely awful. I felt awful at the time, which is now. And that's why I tried to fireball. I mean, I shouldn't have let it go this long. But I'm incredibly drained of all of my spell slots and all of the gore, and I just didn't see this coming. So at the moment, I'm kind of stunned with how much I failed my friend. I tried to counterspell, I failed. And I'm in my own home, I should be at my seat of my own power. So I feel awful. This is the worst, to put it plainly.
Time almost begins to slow down in that horrific way that only the Feywild can. Brandir, Iggy, you remember in this moment through one of your passing through the 12-doored puzzle room, like quite a monstrous scream, almost like a howl at the moon. And you don't know at the time what it is, but anyone who's in the ballroom at the moment realizes that it is Arlington. He manages to push some of these bandits off and blood-drenched and ripping, almost like, what's that dance movie where it's raining and they have their shirt off and they're doing or maybe, it's a flash dance, or maybe I'm thinking of Shawshank. Either way, it's a Shawshank flash dance situation.
They're basically the same film.
Yeah.
Probably.
One of them bans dance, the other one bans being not incarcerated.
Andy Dufresne, I remember him dancing a lot in that movie.
Pretty sure that's how they get out of prison, right? It's a big dance competition.
They dance their way out.
Yeah. They hold a talent show. A big dance talent show, and they just dance their way out. No.
Yeah.
I really liked that. It's such a light-hearted film, Shawshank. Actually,
straight out the prison door.
It's such a wacky romp in the end, and you don't expect that.
Yeah. His redemption's, quite positive, I think.
Yeah. The Shawshank bit's dark, no doubt, but right at the end, the redemption.
But in this room, you hear a very recognizable voice, the voice of your father, who booms over the ballroom and says, "Lavog, cease this now." And all the bandits seem to stop. And they almost sort of not scarper, but they step back. Arlington's still there. It gives you an opportunity to kind of run up to him. And over the course of the next couple of minutes, as the dust and blood and sweat and everything settles, Lavog takes a step back. He has that sort of villainous smirk, that kind of raised, and he just cracks his neck a little bit. He's very satisfied with what he's done, knowing, of course, what he has in place in this realm. And we cut forward a little bit in time to a dining table in a different part of the castle. A little Stan Lee pops in on the bottom of the screen and goes, "Well, true believers, look back at episode 68 if you don't know where this is." As we see Iggy and Randir opening the doors for the second time, being welcomed into the feast. To give you a little sort of fresher up, Arlington is he is speechless. He is sort of in a walking coma, I suppose is what you call it. Just a walking kind of sense of completely blank behind the eyes, drenching blood. He doesn't even touch any of the food, and it's lavish food in front of him. He probably shouldn't either. It's Fey food, so good on him. Lavog sits opposite him. He's happily tucking in. Your father King Puck sits at the top of the table. Huck, you are beside him, right-hand side. And he turns to you, Iggy and Rander, goes, well, now that we're all here, I'd like to explain the situation a little bit. This man, this hobgoblin, he's evoked the law of hospitality. I'm afraid that means that while he is in this place, I cannot request that he leave, and he cannot come to any harm, as it would be an affront on my reputation, which, as you can imagine, as a king of this realm, is incredibly important, and not just important, but almost magical in its power. So I am so sorry, boy, in terms of you, Huck, but I'm afraid he seems to have you vested in every sense of the word. You cannot harm him. He's not going to leave. Yeah, damn right. And so I guess, refresh yourselves. I wish I could help you, but I am simply bound by Fey law. You understand, son?
Oh, I understand. The oldest trick in the old Fey book. The old the hitherto impossible to beat hospitality trick. And yet in every Fey story, there's always a way. And I think I have it. There's one thing even the law of hospitality can't protect you from. That is the game of death! I invoke the game of death.
And King Puck grabs your hand and goes, boy, the game of death. But you know what this means.
Oh, I know it all too well, Da.
He turns to Lavog. My son has invoked the game of death. Do you know what this means? Game of death sounds easy. But no, for the sake of me and maybe Iggy and Rancher, maybe anyone who might read this in a book sometime in the future, please enlighten me. And he turns to you, Puck.
Well, the game of death, it's like any old, Fey. It's like a duel, but happens in the old Fey world. And you've had some duels before, have you, Lavog? Yeah, you know the way. If you're the person who challenges the other person, then you're the injured party because you decided to challenge them. So the only fair thing is to let that person decide how you play, what weapons you use, all of the things. That's how we've always done it in the Fae. So I think we're gonna play a game, and this game is the game of death.
So you get to set the rules. You get to set the battleground. You get to set basically everything. And what do I get if I win?
Oh, well, if you win, we'll all die. Sorry, Hux Punks. I really made a decision on the old, it's a game of death. You can't be going into a game of death and then walking out of the game of death being like, oh, look, there was no death, actually. That was a lovely old game. This isn't one of those games. This is a game, only two teams step in, one team steps out. That team's the better at the gaming. Now, as the affronted party in the duel, I will pick the game of death. I will have to host the game of death. I cannot be involved. My team, my Huxpunks, will be my champions throughout the game against you, Lavog. And they will win, for I have played millions of games with them, and they've never once, as far as I've been able to see, tired of any of those games, and they've definitely remembered all the rules of all the games I've taught them. I mean, I can't possibly lose. I've been training them for this whole time.
We'll see about that. I seem to have already bested one of your Hux punks, is it? Looks more like a dirty bitch boy to me. And I'll make dirty bitch boys of you all. But no, I'm not recruiting you. I was using that time as a insult, but when you're part of the crew, it's actually kind of a badge of honor.
I think Randy's gonna be just like, does this mean that I'm in the gang?
This will be your initiation.
Oh, okay.
If you do well on the game of death, we always have a game of death. You'll ask. They've all been through it. Sometimes we wipe the memories of everyone who games of death. That won't happen this time. So you'll remember.
Okay.
At that, King Puck claps his hand together. Well, so be it. A game of death. Let's invite the realm. It's quite the festivity, really. It's been quite a while since we've had games here in my castle. I think this is going to be quite the event indeed. You might call it... Well, if I was to put a otherworld term on it, Dungeons and Dragons, the game show.
I didn't know what that means, but it sounds fun.
Dungeons and Dragons, huh? Not a good.
That's why it's a game of death. Otherwise, we'd be calling it Jumanji. And he...
Jumanji!
Lavo puts his hand out and goes, okay. I win, you all die. Rua presumably promotes me or just thinks job well done. You're wiped off the board. Okay, end of the road for you. You win. Even if I find a way out of this, Rua will probably kill me, so I'll die one way or the other. I cannot refuse this, for I do know the laws of the Fae. So, put it here.
Well, there you go, and I'll high five his hand. I won't buy it.
Make a acrobatics check as he tries to. First game to me, too slow.
Oh yeah. Can I be sleight of hand?
Yes.
Can I just do something as a divine and also just as an aspect of space and also a divine like being now? Can I like secretly try to see if I can actually kick Larvogue out of the Feywild and just be like, because like I'm still haven't used any of these powers, and I know this is probably gonna like Randir can see definitely that it's like you know like the world is becoming rubber just around Larvogue, and it's just like and then it just kind of wobbles back, and it's just like okay, well that doesn't work.
Yeah, give me a space check.
I'm just gonna roll a d20 for you. So like
yeah, roll a d20. We'll add something on if you're higher than a 15. Let me know. You have to beat a 15 hook on your sleight of hand. What'd you get?
Yes, I did it. I did 19 because I have +7 on sleight of hand.
You just first game to you. Well played.
Can they beat me at too slow, too fast?
Oh, what did you get?
Well, but definitely need to bone up on my whole like divinity and also aspect of being space because I critically failed. So So
yeah.
Critically failing on being the aspect of space could be really dangerous.
I definitely feel like nothing's going to happen except for I'm going to get a penalty on the quiz.
Well, so interesting enough, you know that you could, in theory, almost like the spell Banishment, just move him out of this realm and into the equivalent space in the material plane. You do manage to succeed, actually. Even with a critical fail, you move him into two places at once. You're the only person in the room who can see this. It is happening. The only reason it doesn't succeed, so to speak, is that he is currently in the material plane and the Feywild at once. This realm is sort of emerging. It's the very environment of it is pushing against you, and so you are trying to enact your will on a force of nature, which, as an ideal of it, is your domain. But in this particular case, being protected by the law of hospitality and being challenged to a game of death, there's too many other sort of traditions in place that just sort of lock them in. But if you did this anywhere else but exactly here, that would have worked.
Yeah, like I think Randir probably knew that there was going to be systems within systems stopping him from being able to do this. Otherwise, the hospitality really wouldn't work on anything like too much.
And it's not often you have an ideal of space walking through and just like, whoop, get out of here.
Yeah, but I thought I'd give it a go just to make sure.
Yeah. And you do have a better sense of this after trying, for sure. With the game of death in place, and this being sort of just a little tie-up, we are going to end the session here. Now, for people watching, you're like, what? You just started streaming.
Yeah.
Yes, because part 2 is going to be a Q&A session with us, because we are going to put on a game show. In about episode 71 is going to be a game show which Kelan's going to host. We're going to play in. It's not going to be D&D.
Huck is going to host.
Huck is going to host. We're going to play in. I'm going to practice my Saiyan accent because it's fun to do.
Is it going to be 40 minutes of you just going,
what? No.
What?
Yeah, exactly.
+1. It's over 9,000.
Very well played. So yes, we are going to end the session here. So live viewers, we need your help with a little bit of theatrics. We are going to take our break soon, but the plan is to kind of cut this part of the episode and upload it as itself as a little kind of mini step into, for anyone watching the VOD, so the playlist isn't worked up. So I'm going to pretend like I'm ending the episode for real, but we will be back after the break. So bear with me, okay? Thank you so much for joining us. We will be back in about 2 weeks' time. We are going to do a special one-shot as Huck prepares for the game show called Arcane Investigators, where the other players here will play Arcane Investigators. The way the game's going to work is they're going to come across crime scenes, and through their investigation, we're going to sort of reenact the battles that took place there to see if they can figure out what has happened. And then, for episode 71. Actually, we might make Arcane Investigations just an official canon episode. It's still in the Homebrew world. It just won't be what Huck's Punks. So it might be episode 71, episode 72. We'll be back for Dungeons & Dragons, the game show. Game of Death. Game of Death. Game of Death. But our next stream will be October 11th. Until then, good night. Be sound. Joy be with you all. And we're going to pretend to fade here, upload this, have the little thing come in. But, okay, if you're still with us, we're going to take a break. If you are watching, if you're enjoying the show, we will be back in about 15-ish minutes once the break starts. Ask any questions you want in the chat. We have some questions prepared. Thank you so much for sending questions in advance. I'm going to make myself a little whiskey sour. Lucy, you're going to hop off. People watching will notice that Lucy is also sick. So she'll just be myself, Paul, and Kelan answering questions. We will do our best Wes and Lucy impressions to answer on their behalf. I'm sure they won't mind.
I can't wait. Oh, I love D&D. Oh, yeah.
It's my favorite.
That's my Wes
game.
impression.
Yeah, I think I'm the best one and I know the most about the rules.
Is your
That's
Wes
what
is your Wes impression one of those like wavy inflatable hands?
Yeah, I
And
mean,
also-
It's at a car dealership.
I can't believe no one said it, but I mean, that's the first thing I always think when I see Wes.
I
I
also
assumed
like,
that was I shouldn't have.
I also
It
like
was-
how
it was meant to
Lucy's,
be you,
Lucy's
right?
impression of her is really like you don't need to make an impression of yourself, Lucy. It's just
That's
like
true.
She's heard me impersonate her for like 16
I
years.
was doing the impersonation. I knew exactly what he would do, and I feel like it fit with his.
It was.
You
yeah,
were
no,
doing Kelan
this was
doing you.
This is actually a Lucy impersonation.
Okay, we will be.
I think this.
We're going to take our break. If you are watching on live, please do like, subscribe, do all those things. We're actually really close to like 500 subscribers. So if you've already subscribed, tell people. Use the little break now to send a little tweet out or
Create fake
TikTok
accounts.
or-
We don't mind.
Yeah, we honestly don't. It's like,
if you do subscribe and you get to 500, it opens up a community section as well, which means that we can talk more as well. Though you
community
should
center.
So it's really for you guys.
Should
We don't
mostly
care.
go to the Discord though.
Yes, yeah, we have the Discord. There's links in our social channels as well. But yes, back in 15 minutes for a little Q&A. I'm going to whip myself up a little whiskey sour for it. I'm excited. You should honestly see my DM notes for this session. They were so light. It was delight. I only took out one dice. That's all I need.
I know. My notes are basically I just wrote Game of Death, basically.
That's all you need to
That's
know.
all that was
Game of
important.
Death.
We
Game
were
of
going
Death.
to
Yeah.
try cram it into the end of the last episode, except it was such a thrilling cliffhanger / dramatic moment that it felt strange. So,
Ben, I did not expect you to trick him into murdering his own father. Well done.
Yeah.
That was fucking dark.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm
Why,
no longer
why do you think
a
Wes
boy.
isn't here and he's sick? He's sick.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's
I'm
really
scared
angry
him away.
at Ben.
So scared of my villains. They're so villainous. For such a delightful boy, how has he become such a DM man? Anyway, Paul, get us out of here. Get us to the break.
All right. See you in
Just to the
15
bridge.
minutes.
He said.
Hey, welcome to part 2 of Homebrew. If you're just joining us, welcome. You're actually just in time for part 1 of the Q&A we're doing, so well done. We are going to use the second half of the stream to do a little Q&A because we've reached kind of a natural, lovely natural little break point in the story where we need to do a little bit of preparation from our own point of view. We're going to do a couple of one-shots in the coming weeks and then come back live for Game of Death, which only Kelan at the moment really knows anything about, which is very exciting. I get to
all in here.
All up there. Years of game shows and reality TV game shows and just Kelan making games. He's made a couple of very great games. You should ask him about them in our Discord. Because they're very fun, and we were looking forward to play. But for now, it is a Q&A. So if you are just joining us, by all means, still let us know what you're drinking in the chat. It's fun to now that it's just a chill, just chatting kind of stream. Nice to just chat a bit. I went and made myself a little whiskey sour. It is made with aquafaba, a little bit of Jameson Black Barrel. Actually, it was the only whiskey I had. Green Spot, but I wasn't going to use that. So there was a whiskey sale on recently. Lemon. And a little bit of maple syrup, which is how I like to make it.
I've used Black Barrel whiskey sours. It's very nice.
I wish I had a small bottle of red wine to make a New York sour, which is where you get a spoon and you sort of run it over and just sits on top in a nice, aesthetically pleasing way.
I was going to ask you there if you had gone full hog proper whiskey sour and put an egg in it, and then I remembered you're vegan and absolutely not. So yeah.
That's what we use aquafaba for, which is essentially the runoff from a chickpea can. And it's great.
Oh, that stuff. Yeah.
So we had roasted chickpeas in a curry I made over the weekend. I got mad into baking recently. Baked scones, cookies, crumble, made a katsu curry. I don't know what's I think it's just autumn. You know, when it's cozy and you're like, might as well.
Making a katsu curry isn't baking.
Yeah, sorry, but there was bread involved because I breaded the tofu.
There is bread involved. It's not really a baking process.
But enough about my culinary habits. Let's get into some questions. I think we'll start with the ones not in chat. I'll give Chad a chance to, although I do see some. I just don't want to lose it. I'm going to copy it over. We have a question from Tom. Let me copy it into my little deck over here. So we don't lose it. I'll give Chad a chance to ask some questions and move over to questions that we got through our Twitter account @HomebreWrequest. If you don't follow us there, please do. It's mostly occasionally we tell you that we're doing this, but most of the time it's just making silly jokes about D&D, and that's sort of our and chatting to other channels and sharing some TTRPG advice, letting people know, just generally keeping the conversation going. Of course, our Discord is also there as well. You'll find a link to that in the top of our profile. Right, question number 1 from TwiggyB101, Lou Blanche from D8 Dungeon. So she is asking us, what in your mind is your character's non-adventure related hobby? So thinking I suppose, aside from killing monsters, and Paul, you obviously know straight away as an artificer and brewer. But Huck, what do you think you do? We don't have a lot of campfire downtime, but if we imagine a scene like that, what's Huck up to?
See, if we hadn't introduced Game of Death, then all of the games that Huck has constantly tried to play with everyone would be non-D&D related, all the jacks and everything else like that.
That's true.
But now it literally has just crossed the threshold into being his hobby being relevant. I don't know. I mean, the other obvious answer is trying to make friends. I think he'd be trying to pester everyone tonight, not go to sleep at a fire. I think he'd be trying to get people to either play games or tell stories or do acrobatic things or else like that. I think he's a lot.
Circus stuff, I'd say.
You're the ADHD
betting people whether or
kid.
not they can run up trees and stuff like that. Yeah.
1,000 hobbies.
So yeah, a lot of things. Anything would be his hobby. Almost immediately.
Well, if you want, in canon, if you want Randir to have made you something hobby related, like a unicycle or something, by all means, now's the time, and I will accept it because
I made you a unicycle that kills lamb hog.
I mean, it'd be fun to have a unicycle. I don't know that I'd have the requisite skills to use it, but I was trying to think. I was like, now's the opportunity to find something I'll have a unicycle, and then I can just use animate objects. Whatever I choose,
Yeah.
that was my first thought, was whatever I choose needs to be something preferable so that I can always have something around me to animate. An animated unicycle could be fun.
Oh, it'd be fun.
But yeah, actually it would be fun.
Oh, it would be real if we ever stop off at a tavern or something like that. You can have it like slowly go by an open doorway. You know,
Yeah.
just
Pick people up because then they're on like a unicycle and they don't know what.
A very Puck thing or Puka thing to do. It's not you, but a unicycle that just carries them around.
Yeah.
Oh, Rachel, you wouldn't believe I didn't get home last night. Took me halfway across the country.
Immediately they have to balance, you know. And I don't know if anyone ever played the very, very old SNES game Uni Racer.
Yes.
More or less exactly what I'm envisioning.
Yeah.
So.
Right. Obviously, Randers is brewing, but maybe there's other stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think brewing and probably just I think he enjoys. I think before. So here's the thing. I think before he became adventurer, or a brewmaster or anything like that, I think he just enjoyed reading books. Like he was just enjoyed, because the whole backstory is that he worked in the mines and then kind of gave up on that and became a brewmaster. I think his downtime was just reading kind of, I don't know, some kind of fan fiction from the Hibernia War or and stuff like that. No,
historical fiction from the Fey invasion.
Yeah, kind of just interesting kind of books and stuff. I think that's why he became so learned in a kind of session. But yeah, I think he was a big reader kind of for his hobbies, other than them becoming a brewer. So.
Oh. Yeah, makes sense. I think Wes has told me once that Arlington's downtime hobby is needlework. To calm himself down.
I hope that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm almost certain he said that. Obviously, his painting. She was painting, and drawing elf porn. That's just another one of hers. But I suppose that's adventure related. That's
that's adventure related. Yeah, so she'd have to have something else. I don't know.
Nice. Well, building off that, Isaac and Chad is asking. We know the characters don't have hobbies, but what about our hobbies outside of this?
Well, my answer is more or less the same as Huck's. It's annoying people and playing board games. Anyone who will remember from earlier streams where my background or playing live in my house, there's a lot of board games in this house. In fact, other than the lockdown and COVID and starting, I don't think I've since only bought one or two board games, which is massively good for me. Actually, I've mostly only had things that I kickstarted years ago finally arrive,
Right.
Which I don't count as real purchases, and Claire can't get angry at me for. So the shelves are full. Playing board games, getting together and doing that's more or less massively my hobby.
Just so everybody knows, Claire is the ghost that lives with Kelan.
You might have seen her pass by in the live shows.
Like Kelan doesn't know. Kelan doesn't know about it. Like he keeps referring to her as like a living thing, but
yeah. I can see her, but no one's told me that she's dead yet.
Yeah.
And also, you'll forget immediately. You'll go to sleep and you'll just be gone.
Yeah. Anytime anyone else mentions this, I just hear.
Yeah,
it's just static.
Yeah,
that's my memory is like, I remember we talked about Claire. I can't remember what that. I must tell her.
I suppose outside of this, I'm like one of those haunted dolls that if you just put me down, I just cease to exist. And then when you put me back up, I just reanimate exactly where we left off last time. So as soon as the stream ends, I'm just gone. I just wake up. I only exist in a computer. But as a more serious answer, probably more like Rander. I like reading. I've been reading a fair whack. Playing video games, watching TVs, hanging out with my wife, all those kind of things. I've taken to like exercising a little bit. I used to run a lot more than I used to. Now I'm just like walking longer distances than like I'll go up like a mountainous hill by my house quite a lot, mostly every weekend with some friends. But I think myself and Kelan have similar hobbies, which is just like hanging out, annoying people. Yeah, it's
been a tough couple of years for I've mostly just been annoying there. But going back out into the world and
what about yourself, Paul?
Too many, to be honest.
I mean, we're all friends outside of this, so like, a lot of our hobbies overlap because
so like
we hang out.
the general kind of I guess playing video games and stuff like that and watching stuff. Streaming is kind of a hobby of mine anyway, other than kind of like homebrew. It's here aside as well, and then I did do stints of kind of the solo kind of games streaming as well. It turns out I hate my own self, so like it was just you can't be alone. But yeah, no, you probably have also noticed like things in the background, like collects a lot of stuff, and like I paint minis, and I'm writing a novel, and I'm like, what else am I doing with my life? Yeah, I finally got into Final Fantasy 14, which was just the worst decision because I used to be a big WoW player, so now I'm just stuck on MMO stuff again. It's an addiction.
It's a living.
Yeah.
I can answer for Wes and Lucy. Lucy loves table quizzes and podcasts. She definitely does a lot of that outside of and leaving like 40-minute voice notes. It's a big hobby of hers.
Sure, that's
Wes, boxes. He trains in boxes. He also, I think, subs, stand-up paddleboards. Does that a lot. He's a very active man. Yeah. I'm almost certain. I think he did it down the canal. With a couple of friends of his.
That's just asking for trouble.
And I think he still plays. I play a little bit of music. Actually, my bass is right here. Which I need to hang up on the wall behind me. So I occasionally sit playing that, and I think, oh, nice! I have a little jam, a little acoustic jam. Look at this.
I mean, that's actually something I've the past year, less than a year, been trying to teach myself guitar slowly. As a secret surprise for my dad, who's been playing guitar his whole life, and gave up on any siblings long ago. That's why it's a surprise. Also, because if I can't do it, I don't want to disappoint. So now it's less of a no. Yeah, I was going to say less of a surprise now because I have announced it technically live on YouTube. But I really don't think he's getting past the other thing and then being like, you know what, I want to watch the QnA. I don't think he's ever watched it, and I haven't encouraged him to. So that's fair. But yeah, I've been trying to learn how to play guitar.
No, everybody just went off there. Oh,
yeah, we're back.
We're back.
Good. Well, see, look, this isn't important, so if we drop, it's fine. At this stage. Anyway, yeah. So yeah, I forgot. That's the first real hobby I've had in a very long time. I was saying that to many people. Actually, playing the guitar every once in a while, is an actual hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just noticed, Paul, you're using our Feywild overlay, which is delightful. Yeah. I like doing that stuff too. What I call like big little details. So like if I'm drawing a map, or like doing the overlays or like those kind of small things. I'm like, I'll just spend some time working and ticking around this thing. A couple of questions coming in from chat, and also an incredible joke from Tom, which is what kind of shoes do clerics wear? Heelys, fucking top notch. But how do we make a vegan cookie? The ones I make are only a couple of ingredients. It's almond flour, coconut oil, something else that I blend up. I use a thing called No Fuss Vegan. I think it's Roz Purcell's cookbook, and she's really easy stuff to make. And then I just dip them in chocolate. Afterwards, I think it's only 3 ingredients, actually. I'll look it up while the guys answer questions in a moment to get back to you on that. Any other questions that I don't think we've missed any in chat? So let's move back to the questions we have over here. Question from Isaac N. in our Discord. Thank you very much, Isaac. I know you're in chat as well, so I have all your questions here. And this is quite pertinent, I suppose, to the three of us specifically, because we probably have the longest relationship with this question, which is, how much did each of you play D&D before starting the show? And I think, we've said this before in the show, but Paul introduced me to D&D, what a good friend of ours. We started playing 3.5, and Kelan was in that game as well. I played a high elf wizard called Maeglin Tuckberry.
Yeah, I joined slightly later. It had already been going for a while, so I don't know how long it was. But yeah, that was when I was around like 18, 20. Can't remember now.
We've been on and off. We did that classic thing that I think a lot of teenagers do, which is like, everyone come by and make a character. And we'd spend like hours making a character and then be like, right, so we start and it's like, it's been a day, so let's come back next week. And then half the people would turn up and But myself and Paul and our friend, who was our DM, kicked that all off. And Paul, you played. Were you using Randir at the time?
No, so Randir was probably a newer. Is probably more of a newer thing, but it was a dwarf. I think a dwarf fighter was what I was using in our kind of.
Was it not a Randir? Mad.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, everybody, as I said, I usually play a dwarf called Randir in most of my things. No, it wasn't. It was a dwarf fighter though. Called something else, but yeah, he was. Yeah, me and Ben's characters were very kind of, I guess, that Legolas Gimli kind of like butting head thing for a while, and then Kelan stole a crystal skull when we went to a demon dimension, which caused.
I have my own crystal skull.
Let me just say that it's a great, like, there's a big contention about a talking crystal skull that was stolen from.
It's been going on for 15 years, I think.
Yeah,
it's a long time. I can't believe he's bringing up my crystal skull again.
And the purple velvet pillow. That's what I also enjoy about D&D, is because these little jokes things come out. Because there's an episode where there was a session where it took our group, and like, so I think this is with me and Keelan's group, about like in game probably about 5 minutes, but an entire session trying to fish me out of a lake.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I was there. Yeah, you were in full
Yeah,
plate
yeah,
armor.
yeah. So it was that one. So, yeah.
That was in the older session. Yeah. Full plate
yeah.
armor. I think I wasn't. I think I heard tell of that. I mean, I encountered it again in our game. You're prone to playing dwarves with heavy armor who can't swim, and then falling into the water and sinking to the bottom.
Yeah.
You know. So I would say, I don't know. The other thing I would say about answering that, I guess, is that we've been continuing playing. Paul and I play a game that's still in 3.5 with that friend, a different campaign set somewhat in the same world. I had a 4th edition game that I played that's now turned into a 5th edition game. And then
we had Mothership
this now. Oh yeah.
We had Mothership for a while.
Try to play other tabletops when we can as well. Paul was running a game of Mothership, which is hey, you look it up, it's great. It's like a sci-fi, it's like an Alien, the film kind of tabletop, also like Dead Space, kind of like that. It's, it's an atmospheric horror kind of sci-fi thing where everything's incredibly difficult. Where just the fact that you have a robot on your team means that you're more stressed out. I am that. In fact, there was 2 of us that are robots, so weirdly the other robot stresses us out because that's not clear. So because there's a robot on our team that isn't us, I'm like, I don't trust robots, so it's tougher for me to do this. So we have to like constantly try not to travel together in a thing where you absolutely shouldn't be splitting up, and or maybe everyone should split up. But yeah, we try to play other. I'm very interested in all the different ranges of tabletops, having played a lot of D&D and playing board games. There's so many other types of game. Sacrilege, but yeah.
No, not at all. Absolutely, it's something we'll probably move into in between campaigns, which is just these little one shots and other systems to kind of take over and rotating DMs and all that kind of stuff. That's actually one of the questions. What other TTRPGs, if any, have you all played? Mothership is one.
Yeah, and then you ran 10 Candles, was it? 10 Candles?
Yeah, we did. We played a game of 10 Candles in my house, which is great. I can't wait to. I've only run the one, and it's like, if I could do it every weekend, I would, because it's just a no prep, but like quite powerful. Like I didn't expect it to be. And they tell you, like, in the rulebook, they're like, take this seriously. Don't joke around. Don't fuck about a little bit. And we definitely did, and was still like quite like, oh, like this is.
I think I fucked about slightly too much, and Ben was like, I hate you, Kelan. So
they were separate. I just hate
okay, right, yeah.
But through streaming and doing charity streams and kind of interacting with other people in the Irish TTRPG community, did a lot of the Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah.
We did a little cartoon action hour. I started making a game called Merit, which is sort of based on summer camp, and like the way I haven't actually worked at the system yet, but the way you level up is that you earn, instead of getting like feats and skills and spells, you earn merit badges. So if you want to get like good at archery, you try for your archery badge. It's sort of a scouting based system. But I haven't. Do you ever get this thing where like you're like, yeah, all the energy in the world for this one thing, and then I ran a game of it and I'm like, brilliant. That's that itch scratched for a while. Like I have it all set up, but I just do need to go back to it. To answer the quick question there from Daphne in chat, I think 10 Candles is probably my favorite RP system so far. I've played a little bit of Starfinder. It's very crunchy. Well, but I don't know about you guys' favorite role-playing system.
There's lots of systems that I like the idea of. I've researched and then never actually sorted out playing a game. It's a classic tabletop story. So I could list out a few of them that I'm interested in playing or things like that I can't guarantee is the best system. I would say for myself, weirdly, even contrary to everything that I have said, D&D 3.5 for how insanely complex it is. I mean, not that luckily my DM knows that stuff and I really don't have to know a lot of things, or we do waste a lot of time just being like, now we're going to read some books, y'all. And it's like bad, it would be horrible streaming type fodder. But I don't know. Every other RPG, there's some way of like limiting my imagination I have to kind of make sure I'm sticking within the rules and various other things. 3.5 is so cumbersome that you really can't approach anything in any particular way that you want. So, I mean, I don't know that that's something that people say. It just happens to be my experience with the one group that I've been playing with for a long time. So that one's really fun. Other than that, there's a game I always wanted to play, which Fantasy Flight did a series of tabletops based on the end of the world, where you play yourselves, and your first session is you at the DM's house when the apocalypse occurs, and then everything else from then on is the apocalypse happening. So you have to make your own characters based on yourself, and the system for that is very simple. Almost everything that's not D&D is the simplest system in the world. I really liked that wrestling game that we played, actually. I forgot about that entirely. And the system in that one is 2 different colored sets of D6s. So the reasons you have... sorry.
That's me.
I don't know. Well, unless you're pressing a button at the same time.
No. But okay. I just want because I'm the Skype calls, but I suppose Skype would just kick me out.
Yeah, it's just a weird drop. Sorry, you have 2 different colored dice. One's good, one's bad. And then if you are like, you're trying to jump over a gap and you have metal legs, that's a bad way of then you get to roll extra dice because you're good at jumping or something else like that. But then because you have metal legs, they weigh a lot more. You also have to roll 2 bad dice because it's actually quite heavy, or something like that. And it's literally just averages. The more good dice that are on 6, then bad dice that are on 6 or something like that. I can't remember now the system, but it's very straightforward. I think in a lot of tabletops or in roleplay systems, what I would look for would be something that'd be quick and easy for everyone to understand.
There's one. I won't. You know when you start talking and you don't have any of the information, so it's pointless to talk. But I do know there's a very famous system that it's essentially just like all you need is like like you roll as many dice as like you can put together. You just add like I'll add this dice and this dice and this dice and this, and all you need is like a 5 and a 6 on the like. It's just you're just looking for successes. I think this
is something like that, yeah. And then Arkham Horror, the board game, utilizes 5s and 6s as the only way you can get successes unless you're blessed, and then you get +4s. But
there's the success systems which are they're based on just D6 mostly, D20s or D6s, which is the success system, which is just a percentage. Kind of like but yeah, and then sorry, I just completely derailed that part. I was going to say Dark World is one of the ones that I played, which was a very cut down system as well. That was very good. But I think my favorite system to go through it, Dark World, D&D 2, 3.5, 4, and 5, Mothership. We got to play a couple here, and there was another one which actually had there was no actual character sheets or anything like that. It was just a success system that was like, it was more RP kind of thing, which was fun as well.
Isaac brings up a good point in chat here, which is the 2d6 games, which I think are a lot of the powered by the Apocalypse games, put a lot more pressure on the DM to make narrative sense of the rolls, like failures, partial success, complete success, etc., etc. And one thing I found helpful, I actually did it just there, is, and I was looking up questions for this on Reddit, was low roll, like the heroes never fail. Low rolls mean that something else got in their way. And I found that's more satisfying when doing battles and fights and things, because no one wants to play a session where it's like, Yeah, you roll though, you miss, you're a fool, you trip over your own shoes, you're this mighty hero, and yet for some reason you're an absolute goofy this time around. And I did a little bit in the Arlington rampage, which was like when he missed, so to speak, it was the other people just like blocking or parrying or just moving away at the last second, and then he'd kind of capitalize on it. So I find if you have to DM a system like that, it is tougher because D&D, you've got that little bit of wiggle room. Because of partial success, you're like, it's almost those things where as a DM, you're like, please roll high so I can give you information. And therefore you just don't ask for a roll if if you shouldn't.
That's an interesting one because like there isn't really partial successes in D&D. Not really, because like you set a DC depending on how difficult the thing is.
It's the meets it beats it kind of situation, and people don't use that sort of like the DC's 15. You're not 13 and 17 giving like a little bit of a nudge.
Yeah, because like I always find that's the interesting one because like running my game with a bunch of friends, like they've come to know the fact that if they don't get the DC, I'll give them something, but it's something that they already know, but it's particularly about this to remind them more about this situation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Whereas if they get over the DC, they get new information kind of thing that they didn't have previous. So I do it that way, I guess, is to kind of.
I would say Isaac's definitely right insofar as like, because any of the games that just focus on D6s and things that aren't D&D 3.5 and things that aren't D&D at all, which is very complex, the reason they're trying to do that is to make it easier to play at the table. I guess it always just puts the onus on the person who wants to run the game a little bit more or on your group. But there are so many people that I guess even better than much better than ourselves, improv and or really only need a loose structure and kind of want to bang things along. That seems to be where like everything that's not D&D goes. So that seems to be what the audience generally is quick and easy dice roll part. You don't be learning a bunch of rules. You just want to have a good way of doing a narrative. In which case, you're playing with friends. Never really feel like there's too much pressure.
Oh, everybody's
They give the players like say it's like ask this question, don't ask. You get 3 questions from this list, 2 questions, 1 question. So like it helps that aspect of it. But I do know a lot of the 2d6 systems don't. Quick fire round, I think, just for Tom setting up a game of Starfinder in the sheet. I found a really good resource for this online where you can just sort of like, it's like a character builder. It's like a D&D Beyond version for Starfinder. Do jump into the Discord, even just private message me, whatever. I will link you to it because it really helped when putting together a character sheet for myself. And it would stop me doing things like there's so many, I play like an operative, and it's like you have to have operative weapons and they can't be a certain type and they can't be unwieldy and all that, and it would stop me adding them so I wasn't, accidentally breaking the rules. So yes, just reach out to me, Twitter, Discord, whatever. But you also have a question that you've been asking, which is not sure what era your current game is in, but I see you're drawing a lot from local folklore. Any chance Hellfire Club, the one in Dublin, not the one from Stranger Things, will make a shady appearance? And the era of the adventure, I suppose, I call it the age of commerce and exploration because it's where the character started. It's like there was a big old Fae invasion war, which we've since learned was a Fae sundering, that they used to live there and they were kind of separated out for reasons and plot. And in doing so, part of the goddess Avandra was sort of caught in that sundering, and therefore the idea of travel sort of manifested a darkness called the Black Hound, which stopped people from traveling. So all these sort of settlements and solitary and enclosed towns started cropping up around Hibernia, of which sea travel was the only option because the Hound couldn't swim. It made sense at the time. At the very least, it was only on land. But there's been quite a few ages in Hibernia, off the top of my head, and not necessarily in chronological order. Age of Enlightenment was one. Age of Unity was another. Age of Arcana, maybe. I do have my notes. I could just go find them, but I won't. But we're not like necessarily tied to Ireland and like our history and sort of like the actual, say, Laura Gavon era or the Tuatha Dé Danann stories. We're not really. The Tuatha Dé Danann are our pantheon minus Avandra, who's the only D&D god I've kind of swapped in because I quite like them. But it's in its own sort of homebrew world. But as such, the Hellfire Club probably won't make a shady appearance, but I do often do this thing when I'm making town maps, which I just pick a real town in Ireland and then just draw it and then fantasize it up. So the town of Mikeller from early sessions of the show, we did a little like chat competition to see if people can name it. I think it was T-Bone Murphy who got it in the end, but I won't give out the answer now in case you want to go do it yourself. Same with the Vla, that's based in a real town in Ireland, and interesting enough, a town that later on hosted the Vla, so there's a little hint for you. But the only one I haven't done that with is Tadgh and Arson Fina. Actually, Arson Fina is based in a real place, so the game continues. But Tadgh isn't. That was just a sort of town I made up, or like a cityscape. And same with Sleep Jam, actually.
I was going to say, you said the only one there wasn't. I was like, Sleep Jam. Yeah.
Clearly.
There's not a lot of...
That's based on Bray.
I don't think I don't think my hometown is based on anything, is it?
No, it's not. But we don't have a map for it.
That is true.
And we probably won't. It's you have sort of the invisible, unfound city of Rumbullion.
Yeah.
Just this moving city around Hibernia that if you know where it is, can you ever find it? It turned up in episode 52, the last episode.
I should stop bringing it up.
No, do. It's like we still know it, and we did a little recap kind of it, I think, maybe. I said quick fire round. So, for you two, how insane did you feel within Ben's DM notes? This is from Isaac over on our Discord.
Oh God, it was a very, so I think two things for me was that it was getting my head around the concept of the play style was a bit, that was the kind of chaotic part, was kind of like, what, my character's just like, what the hell does, kind of trying to figure that out.
Because I'm conscious we have a couple of people who hadn't watched much of the backlog. Should we explain that part? Because it's a
yes,
itself.
Yeah, true. Brandir was actually the one to notice it. So they ended up in a sort of mysterious pocket dimension sent there by the gods to go through the god trials to kind of give them sort of divinity powers so that they could take on Rua, the big bad, who is an archfey and now seemingly also a deity in the world. But there was this sort of like obsidian wall on one side with these strange sort of like giant creatures like peering in and observing them. And over the course of a couple of sessions, it became clear that those faces were our literal stream faces watching.
I mean, Paul twigged that, and I didn't at any point in time until Paul had said it, and then I was like, "Oh wow!"
Yeah.
And you broke through that fourth wall, tumbled into my literal DM notes, where we did the sort of mini map where I just shared my DM notes and put you guys in them. But it was to your point, Kelan, about 3.5 being sort of a freeing imagination place. It's something I've always felt about D&D, and especially the show. Like if we were playing at home and we were sticking to the rules are written, rules intended, absolutely. But one of the reasons as a DM I've been like, here, just have god powers or like ideals or whatever, is so that, Paul very rightly today was just like, can I just do this? And I think it just makes for a more dramatic and interesting story. I often tell the guys, like, honestly, just forget your spells or like your ability. Just tell me what you want to do, and if it's cool and you want, like, we don't really play D&D 5e. We started as kind of a potential way to teach people how to, and we very quickly. So as soon as we brought in beer magic, almost, and a little bit beforehand, where like any name or any piece of text or anything with a beer could alter the course of the session, that took us off the rails of being held by rules in a way. And
that took us years to do, and was such a great move.
Yeah.
I think we wouldn't have done it at the start because it seemed so ridiculous, like too overpowered. I think we would have often felt, this is too. This is like, you're taking the piss here. And now all we do is try to take the piss, and it's more fun for it. Not because Ben also does it. That's the other problem. Anything that we're allowed to do, obviously the DM is allowed to do, which is always the double-edged sword when asking if you can do crazy things. That's something that players should always keep in mind. I was going to think if you're arguing for the DM to allow you to do something, that you're perfectly fine with them doing it and or spamming it. That's usually the question. And if you're not fine with them being spammed with it, and you find it would be annoying as a player, then you might want to not do it.
We're also in a slightly different situation to a home game, which is like we're, first and foremost kind of playing our version of D&D and having fun ourselves, but we were aware there's a chat here and there's an audience here and there's a certain level of like theatrification or like entertainmentifying it. To bring an extra element, like, so the wilder the moves and the more like leaps of faith that the guys make, the better ultimately and more entertaining it is for everyone involved.
Believe it or not, we are trying to avoid all of the extra rolling and bogged down, just sitting here watching stuff. We're trying to make it narratively snappier, although that might not be obvious from watching us. But that's somewhat.
D&D will always sneak in.
Yeah. You need rolls. You need to make decisions.
Well, like
if you ever retrospectively edit the show, then sure, it will come all out. But
well, like that, the whole thing with the rules and stuff like that in D&D, like there's a particular reason why they say at the end, like at the end is essentially the first, like it's a tradition now for any kind of new editions. So for the DM, manual, that it literally says you are the DM, you are able to ignore or add rules as much as you want, because like you can have, by all means, follow the rules. Especially if you're starting off, I would have that advice. If you're starting off, getting a module and playing the rules and stuff like this is a good thing. But like having that aspect of kind of being able to go and kind of change them and as you said, make them more kind of narratively and creatively and kind of more entertaining. Even if we weren't playing, like doing a show, having them more entertaining just for your party, for the group and stuff like that is always fun. So being able to learn the rules to be able to break them, that's my suggestion for any new DMs kind of thing. And don't be afraid of it ever.
That holds true with a lot of board games and stuff as well. To be honest, if you're playing a game where you're getting together with your mates, just, do whatever works. If you break a rule or whatever else, if you can all talk about it, that's the only thing that ever works.
Yeah.
Provided you're having fun, it doesn't really matter. And that's the thing with D&D, provided we've added in beer rules and everything else, it's just, as long as you're all on the same page going through, that's all it is. Like
that is one thing. Do talk to your DM and get the setting and kind of this and get the tone of the thing, because you don't want to make any dark brooding kind of characters or anything like that, and then it turns out that this is a light-hearted kind of romp kind of thing, so your brooding Batman character is not really going to get much.
The importance of session zero.
Yeah, you can't just do whatever the hell you want for fun. Like, be on the same page as the rest of your,
That applies, I think, to board games and tabletop. Like, have that little session zero figured out. We check in before sessions as well. Like, before this one was just like, okay, this is what we're trying to do. Not necessarily giving away but I did say to the guys, we're just going to blast through. We're just like, we'll just get there because we get to the Q&A. I'm not ignoring chat. I do see questions. I see you're also chatting amongst yourselves, which is nice. The deck of stories, I was like, that sounds incredible.
That's a cool thing.
If you're watching on afterwards, we keep the chat up so you can also follow along. I did say lightning round, but let's do it. I can answer this one straight away. Do any of us have kids? Not that we know of. So we have not played TTRPGs with them. And then coming into, I'm going to ask 3 questions at once.
Okay.
This is from _threadsoftly_fee, also part of the D8 Dungeon crew. They're in Rise of the Forsaken, very amazing player. But they are asking us a couple of questions. Why do we play? Is there any class you're not interested in playing? And then for me as a DM, my favorite moment when the PCs went completely off-road and fucked everything up. You had planned for the session. I mean, it doesn't happen all that often, but a recent one happened and I did love it. It's I try not to break kayfabe on stream. Anytime I'm annoyed at the players, I'm not annoyed. It's playing to the camera. But
he's annoyed.
Yeah.
You should see the emails that we get afterwards.
I don't talk to them for at least 2 weeks.
He's very snippy and livid when you try to do anything that's like playing the game,
But the Kelan, if you think about why do you play, and Paul, if you think about any class you're not interested in playing, while I answer a moment when the PCs went completely off session. This was recent enough, and a couple of episodes previous, they were like, let's go to Baja Glen. I was like, nice, I'll make a little map for them. I'll just like and Iggy had gone into a map store and been like, get me maps of Baja Glen, get me maps of all this kind of stuff. And so I don't know if it was clear, but eventually time cops turned up to arrest them and bring them to Baja Glen. I was like, oh, this is a nice narrative way to get them there. But of course the party being like, absolutely not are we going under arrest. On our terms or not at all. And they've sworn never to go there. So all the maps all the time, all the little plotty bits that I had planned completely out the window. Or are they? More on that in a couple of episodes' time. Because you can always find a way. This is the thing. You can never really be annoyed at your players for going off rails because there's no such thing as wasted prep unless you honestly over prep for something that literally has to happen at this time with this person. That study still exists. That map still exists. There's plenty of adventures, plenty of one-shots, plenty of other things I can place there. And it ultimately makes me a better DM at describing things because like little bits of how I'm thinking of that city can move them way into other parts of the session. So, Kelan, huge question. Why do you play?
Why? Because it's fun. I mean, that's the most boring answer. No, I don't know. There was different things. I mean, the first time I played that 3.5 game, it's with friends, and it's because I had never played D&D and wanted, with this group of people, to figure it out. I knew I was in good hands with the DM. From there, I now play multiple games, as I've said already. With this one, believe it or not, it's trying to... I don't role play that much. I mean, I role play insofar as I play my characters, but the other DM characters, or the other characters in the other games, are more like myself than Huck is. Well, Huck's still a bit like myself, more so than I'd like to admit. But this one, I was trying to do a voice, trying to make sure I always thought in character and try to make sure that my character was not like me. And that was just to try a whole other thing, like to try to actually role play. It was never something I felt like I needed to do when I was trying to figure out the earlier games. I just needed to play with my mates and easy, just cut that out if you don't want to bother doing it. Like, just my character's like me. I mean, that's fine. So I did that for a very long time. So for this, Huck was the first like character I crafted. Now the voice I crafted was bad, and I knew that was gonna be bad. But and it's changed a lot over time. But it's still good doing it. That's kind of what I play because it's fun. It just gets you. It's a good way of group thinking or playing. It really emulates playing like kids play. I always think of Calvin Ball. If anyone's ever read Calvin and Hobbes, D&D is more or less essentially that, which is every other child's game. It's just one of those that's gone through the insane, nerdy, focused kid who's come up with the system, and then all the other kids still don't pay attention. That's the basic way. But there's a lot of fun in throwing something random and weird out, and then having someone else pick it up and go in a different direction. So that is why I play, I guess.
Yeah, that's like I think you've spoken for me in the same, like that's exactly the reason I play. You're also being a little bit unfair on Huck's accent because if you were to speak as Huck, I distinctly would know who. Like maybe that's after 4 years.
Yeah.
Like,
it's after a while, and I scaled it.
Region versus
I scaled it down.
How Huck sounds.
I scaled it down to a different accent that I don't know what it is, because it was easier to do, and that's just where it is now.
But it's also nice, like if you we're not voice actors, we're not performers like active on the stage or screen or any of that kind of stuff aside from the performances we do here, but often just timbre and meter are enough to get like a character across. So like you're like, I can't do accents, and trying to tie it to like, maybe I'll be like a Spanish like Zorro. I'll be like a Spanish swashbuckler.
Everyone had to be Irish initially, so and that's the one type of accent, even being an Irish person, that I can't do. This is what I sound like. It's not what Irish people sound like, as a general rule. So even my normal voice wasn't allowed in normal. So
yes, yeah. That's the same with like, I think you can tell when I go from speaking to like, I just do like an NPC like shift, and it's like, oh, it just kind of goes there, and it's not. No one sounds like that.
It's fun. It helps, but you don't have to do it. That's the other nice thing about D&D.
And Paul, any class you're not interested in playing?
Funny enough, this is one that I think Kelan really likes, which is the monk.
Wow.
I have no interest in the monk. I don't know why. That's a terrible answer I've
probably for the same reason that I like them.
It's like I don't know. I just don't. I guess I get into fantasy, into D&D and fantasy to play wizards and kind of, warriors, and a monk is kind of just something that's outside my ballpark of kind of characters, I guess.
Yeah, I can't really see you being a stoic monk.
Yeah, I can't either, because like my characters either tend to be like, I have 3 types, which is the brooding type, just too intelligent for their own good, or just the boisterous kind of like happy-go-lucky one. But it's not in the same way as Huck. Just Huck is just a completely different aspect of. I like, you know, I guess more traditional kind of like, I guess happy-go-lucky dwarven kind of normal mentality of just being seemingly always being like good-natured and chuckly kind of thing is always the third type. But monks, I can't see myself really.
I can agree with you on monks, but I've always wanted to try it out, not in the traditional like martial artist monk, which is usually how it goes. It sort of goes into an Asian, culturally Asian space, but more in the sort of like Trappist, like Franciscan well monk space. And I think that will be quite an interesting character to play, like an overly religious, like brewing
I
fights
suggest
only.
you call your character Buckfast. And homebrew, that's all we drink.
Yeah.
The Buckfast.
Make him a
sessions.
gnome. It's a very gnomish name.
Yeah, that's true.
I only realized recently on Twitter that we've only had 2 gnomes in the entire campaign. One, a man who was very bad at giving directions on the road from Driacht to the fairy tree that you went to Huck, where you found out you were Prince Huck. And then Mickey Boodle, the head of our Centrino.
Oh, yeah.
He's also a gnome. 2, I think Lucy hated that. She just did not like the fact that it's like stupid joke character was this like best like survivalist nature, like rangery kind of thing. But if that isn't homebrew, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, I mean that's the fun. To defend monks, I guess, to some degree, because I like monks. Or the reason I often say I like them and/or suggest I don't know what other normal play in D&D is because if you're trying to play D&D and cutting out all of the extra rules, especially in 3.5, and things that you have to think about or look at, a monk is your way to do that. They have natural armor over time. You can just hit people with your fists. You know, you don't have to worry about buying equipment. You don't have to worry about losing equipment. The only thing you have to worry about is being lawful. And that's, I guess, not a problem for me, but a problem. A lot of people in D&D want to, I guess, rob things. I'd say that's probably it's what you do in Skyrim and Elder Scrolls. As soon as you get a chance, sneak around, rob all of the things. I presume a lot of people going into D&D might want to do that, and a monk specifically can't be not lawful, or at least in 3.5. I don't know how it expands onwards, but
low use as well, because it's like, well, unarmed, I don't need like occasionally I'm gonna use like a staff.
Yeah. I mean, you can use sticks, you can use other things, but like if you want to, you can absolutely just be like wearing your light armor. You never really have to worry about buying extra stuff. If you get tied up, you know, you're in a good position to deal with that. So it's that I think that's why it's a good character. It's
so
light,
low maintenance.
Yeah, low maintenance. You know what you're doing, and then by the end of it, you're basically a god. You know, you're like nothing can hit you.
Walls and waters. You can jump like at least in 5th edition, you can fall some ridiculous amount.
Now my character. I had a monk in the 4th edition that transferred into 5th edition actually, and so we were so high level in that like I can run up wall. I can jump most of the map. Like in one, it's like I immediately jump 120 feet and then punch the guy in the face. I often do that, and that's really fun. I mean, getting to that level, it's really fun to then be a ridiculous character. Particularly in that game, my character is blind, so that makes it it's needlessly difficult in D&D to be a blind character. One, because it's easy enough to heal blindness as a relatively generic thing, and 2, because all of the negatives for being blind are just really bad for fighting. So we just kind of hand waved.
I suppose it comes to, there was a question earlier about how do we feel about D&D 1, and it's a big topic, but it is one of those things where like D&D in general has never really been great on accessibility. And like I was thinking about this earlier, there's this whole tying sort of traits to race versus like upbringing. That's a big discussion in sort of the Wizard of the Coast thing, and even just using the word race. And I was like, well, what could they? I was trying to think of a solution, and I don't know if this is good or not. And I could easily be putting my foot in things that are without the knowledge of it. But I was just like, kinfolk. That's in Tolkien, which is where it's all kind of like coming from. And like kinfolk makes sense because you could talk about it from a upbringing point of view without it necessarily being tied to, like, you know, gnomes being raised with orcs being raised with elves, and they are kinfolk to a certain sort of upbringing. Has a nice that's my solution. Feel free to take it, Wizards of the Coast, but I could easily be, but we don't have a sensitivity officer here on the call, so I could easily be trundling blindly into a bad situation.
I don't like. I guess I've probably played D&D the longest, and like I can see people's points in it, but it does stem from other things other than just the system. Like it does because like there's evil humans, there's evil elves, there's like, you know, like I think it's more focused on kind of like I know that a lot of people are more kind of like evil isn't something a group of people should be always attributed to and stuff like that, but I do believe that that's majority because of fantasy has already attributed those things to it, and it has a long tradition of that. Whereas it's
trying to take shortcuts, right? Like that's the
and the system the system is just designed around the DM person who's going to probably take on those traditions as well, just because it's the material that they probably read the most.
Yes, yeah, that's the difficult thing, which is like you, it's turtles on turtles on turtles, and the further you go back, it's like, okay, so well this is based on fantasy, which is based on this, which is based on this, and you scratch that surface deep enough, and you go, oh, actually that's based on xenophobic stereotypes that the person who wrote the original fantasy was like dipping into, and you go, oh right, okay, so I can see, you know, with proper research, you're like, yeah, gross, which is why I think Isaac rightly pointed out Pasha's Cauldron does kinfolk, which is, yeah, good to. I was almost certain I wasn't the first person to come up with that. But yeah, it's a very much the importance of session zeros, setting out your tone at the table, and you know, there is an escapism to these are the bad guys, go kill them, and it's the work of the DM and the party to be like, yeah, it's not an entire race of people, that doesn't make any. It breaks the realism for me anyway. I'm like, oh, that doesn't make sense. And I think, you know, anyone who's watched the show for a long period of time and seen me as a player, I often just come up, like, I'll rarely play a race in the core rulebooks. I'm like, can I be...
Yeah, that is true.
A dog? Like, that's the... you know, and I'll just use the stats, and I'll just be like, okay, I'll take a known stats, but I'll apply it to a tree stump. That will be...
It's fun. It's fun messing around. You should be able to do it. Like, again, as long as everyone's on the same page. That's all. That's the only thing that's really.
Yeah. The next thing, I'm like, maybe a ghoul. I'd like to be a ghoul.
Yeah. I also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was also going to say that the only other reason that I can think of that D&D kind of sets itself out that way is just for simplicity at the start of stuff. Like like as seasoned players and seasoned DMs, we're able to kind of like in my worlds, like orcs aren't seen as the bad guys. Like there was essentially an army that, or like a bad guy, a lich, who like many races kind of joined behind because, you know, they thought they would just have a better life, but then there's other people who saw that the life wasn't actually that good and all that kind of stuff. So there's not an evil race kind of thing, and like, but I think if you're starting off as a new DM or new player kind of thing, having essentially a pre-built kind of like group of people that you can kind of go, well, these are the people you're going to go against just in our kind of thing. I definitely I understand why the system was set out that kind of way. It is it's that short up of like how for a system so crunchy, how quickly you get in you, and then like, and there's merit to saying, well, you know, a lot of people pick this up in their formative years. We did, definitely. And it's like, is that the, you know, there's a, you know, cultural and social thing to be like, is that the lesson? Just be like, yeah, there's this and this, but you trust people that they grow up and they get intelligence and they figure it out, and the same way we did, and we're like, oh yeah, you know, and it's more rich. Like if you care about the game, you want it to be as rich and as real and to its own rules as possible. It's a difficult thing with Homebrew because we've sort of said it's a world without rules. It's sort of a Looney Tunes chaotic, like beer magic can affect it, and sometimes the world itself will just be like, yep, that happens. And it took us like a year or two of streaming to be like, oh, that's the world we're playing in, because we weren't sure of the tone of the show when we started. We're like, is this serious? Is it not serious? Is it like, are we trying to be serious but we get drunker and therefore the fun is in the dramatic difference between us trying to take a game seriously but not physically being able to due to inebriation. So yeah, that's the. Any more? We do have questions, but I think we've answered a lot. Like, how we come up with characters? Do we pick classes first, work from there, build a backstory, personality, or pick that kind of thing?
favorite, least favorite spells, most difficult part of role playing, all of those. I think we've either answered in previous Q&As or through context clues being sort of implicitly answered tonight.
Well, I do have
Again,
that.
yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say that there's two questions there I'd like to kind of dip into, because I don't think like Maria Kelan. You're probably one of the like choosing class or kind of person.
How do I make a character?
Yeah.
I was gonna take a stab at that, but yeah, go ahead.
No, go for it. That's one.
Yeah, let's all. I think that's a good one. I don't think we've answered it. Let's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult. You kind of do all of the things. I find that there's a number of characters I'm interested in playing. When you play a number of different D&D games, you're really only ever playing the one character for any length of time. In Homebrew, I've had opportunities to play Talking Swords, halflings in a trench coat, and various other things. If an idea can strike you, I find for me there's a kind of backlog of things that I'm interested in from watching TV or reading books or other things. I go, oh, that's interesting. I'm very interested, have been for a long time, in paladins. I never encountered them that much, and I think there's good comedy value in a paladin that I haven't explored yet, mostly because I think they're very annoying in the kind of very straight, old school, no, can't be having any of that. And I had an idea a long time ago about a paladin that was obsessed with truth, and then if the paladin was specifically obsessed with truth, maybe he'd be a journalist. And it's things like that, coming up with ideas over a large period of time and having that kind of backlog. Other than that, yeah, after that, it's trying to figure out what you think will work. So if I just wanted a journalist character, it's fun to think what class best suits a journalist, to which I've landed on paladin, but you could easily say bard, or other things. Monk could be similarly obsessed with truth in a believable way, kind of down to where you think it'll be fun, I guess. So I don't know if it really answers the question, but
I think it does.
I think the
like concept first, and then put the mechanics on the concept.
Yeah, exactly. You have to want to play it. You have to have some reason to think that the character is interesting or want to play it if you're going to RP it. I guess, especially if you're going to be playing it for a long time. You want to avoid being the main character because it's D&D. But you want to have a thing that is your character, and hopefully a thing that will either be good for other people to bounce off or not. But those are all quite, late game considerations. If you were starting off fresh, just whatever you think is fun. Pick a thing that you think is fun, or an idea that you think is fun and or funny for other people, and then figure it out from what best helps you do that.
Yeah. Like I would definitely echo that in the sense of kind of concepts that hit you of characters, especially like I know that I play a dwarf that's always called Randir, but like probably in the last like 4 years I've probably
Paul's method is
a dwarf.
Make it a dwarf, make it call Randir.
Yeah. And then get to do the other fun parts, which is like get their backgrounds and stuff like that, and kind of I guess the class that kind of goes to that. But there's been a lot of times now recently in the last 4 years actually playing with Homebrew and a couple of other things, that I've kind of started to branch out and make characters as well, that I've kind of going, that's a concept I'd like to try kind of thing, outside of kind of being Randir. And because I know why I did Randir. Randir was just it's just like a dwarf named Randir, and then I can build kind of like I guess his backstory and a class.
Yeah, I mean that's the if you know a thing and you're comfortable about it, then be that character. Like if you don't mind playing the same character, that doesn't really matter. I've played other games with other Randirs; they're a little different, but
they're a little different. Yeah,
they're a little different. Isaac said in the chat there, bounced off the reporter. He thinks that a reporter could be an alchemist. I mean that's the thing. I guess try to think of a thing that isn't in D&D, like a reporter, or in medieval times, and then try to figure out your way of getting there. I guess.
I don't think I've ever thought about it until you guys sort of chatted through there, but I definitely think I'm concept and then like backwards engineered into.
It's how you write a joke.
Yeah. I'm like, I wonder what this like.
Punchline and then the contrivance to get to the punchline, or at least that's how I try to do things.
Yeah, like for the thing where I'm just like, maybe I'll like see if the DM will let me play a ghoul. I think the concept there is like we're always like, I like the idea of playing around with there's these like shiny paladin heroes, and there's just like, and then this guy, just like being and potentially trying to be the face of the party in a nice way, because there's a lot of ghoulish fun to be had in like in also just being like, is he a ghoul or just a guy? Like, what's the like?
Yeah. Could
what's
be a
the, you know,
really ugly human.
yeah, just that strange little riffraff from Rocky Horror kind of guy. Maybe he's just a bit of a slimy creep, but like that's purely his aesthetic. But his actual like I like aesthetics and personality being contrasting in a way to sort of play with form. But I think that's like only it. Like I used to just be like elf wizard. I'm done, and I've played many elf wizards or half elf bard. And I quite like dipping into the might be related to royalty somehow, but I've just run away from home. Like I just like that's something I can comfortably slip into, being like, oh, it'd be great if I was just somewhat closely connected to the king, and my whole thing can just be like, yeah, I don't want that responsibility, which is nice. So I think because of that, because even when I'm playing Skyrim, like elf wizard, I just think it's always the same. And if it's like a sci-fi based game, it'll be like the closest to an elf wizard. So I think that's why in tabletop games I like to move away from that.
I get that's actually an interesting one. In sci-fi, I'm a lot different. There's loads of different characters I play. Like it's only in fantasy that I tend to stick to that. My form there of a dwarf with like called Randir, so that's an interesting one as well.
Yeah, in computer games, I guess I just pick whatever seems fun.
In games,
or in those things. In games.
In video games, I have no idea.
I
don't think
there's a lot less choice than that in a lot of games these days. Anyway, it's just you're this guy.
I've been playing Beacon Pines, and the character you play is like this little like tiny deer based like a stag thing. I'm like, oh, that's nice, like a small little like, but it is that stuff. I'm like, take a halfling, foxify it, or like sealify it, or like I quite like Gus from Saga, like the little guy who's like a little fisher seal in the those kind of things. I'm like, yeah, that like I played a tree trunk in a game of Penny Dragon Games. It was just like, what is he? It's like he's just a tree trunk with like it was like a little Deku kid, and I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. Orlean Duel, who's been on the show, often makes fun of me and says if she ever DMs, she's like, you have to play a human fighter, and I'm like, never.
The most baseline.
I mean, I would love to see that. That'd be great.
Yeah. Couple of questions from the chat, and then I'll finish with we'll finish with who do you have a crush on? Most juiciest question of all. But Paul, I see you're being asked, where does Randir come from?
His name is full name is Randir Golram. It's actually stands for Wolfhead Mountain. It's in Duran's folk Dwarvish. So there you go. There was one other question, not how to make a character, but there was another one.
Oh yes, I have it here.
I also thought we would get
favorite spells, or what's the most difficult part of role playing for you?
Well, that's one that I like, because I guess I've with ORPing, I've always found when I was younger it was so much more easier. Like ORPing was so much more easier. Now I find it a lot more difficult, and I don't know what's happened, kind of thing. Like I do know why it's happened for specifically Homebrew Quest. It's because my character only came in a week and a half ago compared to the rest of the characters. So I didn't grow up. I guess Randir didn't get to grow with them as much. But that's not like it. That's also still just a part of this European thing. I think recently enough, I've had more issues. Though I've been watching a couple of. I've been watching kind of Matt Mercer, which was a question I was going to ask to the group. But Matt Mercer and Critical Role and a couple of other things. And my group has been kind of supportive and kind of doing more ORPing for their characters that they meet and stuff like that. But I always find just actually in a group being more kind of being more in a group and stuff like that, and being able to talk in accents and stuff like that of your character and stuff, and taking on their characteristics was a bit more, because especially since most of my characters are a lot more kind of, they are, I one of the reasons I do like to play D&D is because one aspect is that I don't have to be myself. I do get to play characters that are a lot more, like, I guess a lot more different than I am. But that means that ORPing them becomes a greater difficulty for me, kind of thing.
That's a really good point. Like, I know I say it at the start of every show, but the crushing dullness of every life with our favorite form of escapism, and it becomes just a line, but it is that, it's the escapism being like, right, not everything behind that door for a while. But Paul, remind me, why did Because you just meant like a year, like a week and a half, and suddenly you're the god of brewing and the
Yeah.
ideal of space. But
I think it
why
might have
was-
been like 2 weeks. I think
It's
I
like-
think he's shortened it by a couple. Maybe he's 3 weeks in, but it's very
I think
short.
I think it's only a week and a half for Randy because we were like a week and a bit in from the kind of the countdown starting, which started in
Were we?
Drift.
It's-
Oh, that started direct. Okay,
a couple of days, yeah. But why were you going to meet Huck Spunks again? I know you'd heard about them. You were following along with Goat on your way to Sleep Gem. You were just going to Sleep Gem. You didn't even.
That
like,
was
Don't be
it.
questioning. Don't be questioning whatever contrivance that we used to get him on there.
The only reason, so
Probably
I,
loosely done.
yeah, Render's story of kind of he got kicked out of the brewing company because they were selling it, and he was
Yes.
traveling to Sleeve Gem because he wanted to open up the Cave-In Brewing Company, and literally along the way he kept hearing about the Hucks Punks and stuff like that, and then eventually he stumbled upon them in that dwarven house.
Right, because you were going to him as the kind of lead entrepreneur person to be like, can I have a loan for this thing?
Yeah, he
We
was
just bumped into them.
Yeah, because he was the Clockwork Tangerine kind of back
Yes.
person. So
Yeah. He was the financial aid there.
But you wiped his memory and robbed his house. So
yeah.
and you saw the dirty bitch boy fight. So you're all there with Lava, you know.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, yeah. So the question I would like to answer just before or ask before to you guys, which is one that so Matt Mercer has been it's attributed as a really, really good DM and stuff like that with his descriptions and his kind of things, descriptions and characters and everything like that, and his RPing kind of thing. And I know that it's for entertainment purposes and stuff a lot more, but has there ever been a pressure as a DM or as a player in any of the other games to be more kind of like involved in the RPing now? That kind of, I guess, like the Critical Role kind of thing has come in.
Colloquially dubbed the Matt Mercer effect.
Yeah.
Which is players being like, why aren't you Matt Mercer? Which is a fair question. Do you want to answer? You don't really watch Critical Role, so you might be.
Yeah, I don't really watch Critical Role. I'm bad in the zeitgeist of D&D. Weirdly, you know, in all of that, in the various media, there's only one tabletop board game podcast thing that I listen to, and it's not D&D based. So I haven't listened to it in years. So that's one thing. But if there was ever a pressure on any side of anything, there's pressure I put on myself for Homebrew specifically, more or less because I made the decision to RP more in this. Although having made that decision after Critical Role got popular and people were getting more into D&D, perhaps that influenced that. Maybe I thought maybe I need to, but it was the next logical step. I had done like 10 years of not really of putting the RPing on the back burner. So this was to see how it goes. But I don't think there's been pressure to do anything in any other respect, as Ben hasn't even noticed that I completely changed my accent over time. So, he's not like, why aren't you doing the same original accent or whatever. So yeah, no, I've been okay in that respect.
Those in glass houses, Kelan. Should not throw stones.
Yeah.
Which is, I suppose that answers both your, or like it leads into an answer for your question, Paul, and the hardest part of RPA. I find for characters, and you guys as players are very forgiving, that I forget and I shouldn't because I did like the Ramen Theater Studies, but like an NPC's like objective or goal, I'll get too caught up in just having fun that you'll be like, wait, didn't you want the other thing at the start of this conversation? I'm like, oh yeah, I did. Sorry. It's like, I'll get sort of lost in that. And so that like the NPCs are a little bit illogical. I mean, even look back to, I was talking to Kelan about this off stream, but Rander's conversation with Rua, and Rander just asking like very obvious pertinent questions, like, but what? That makes no sense. And Rua being like, and I do, like, I have it written down, just like, I just forget to like drag it across where I need it. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know right now. There is a reason, but I can't. And like, it works. I think it works on a stream because it's like, oh, she's just being coy, or like she's just not getting into details. But I like the behind the curtain is me being like, what was that again? Or like, practiced it, I guess. But yeah, not keeping my characters straight. Lavog is another good one. Like that, not the session tonight, but the session before that, being like, what did he sound like? And then just being like, oh, like I literally made this guy like fun to play. But in terms of like the Mercer effect, I don't think so, because I guess I never felt the pressure because I didn't have to change anything about how I DM'd. I've never DM'd before. So like literally from where we started to where we are now, I'm a different DM, I think. And that is only just through learning, playing with you guys, and then occasionally doing other streams or games, outside of entertainment. And so finding that voice, I think a lot of people who might have been DMing for like 10, 20 years, who were just like, similar to yourself, Kelan, being like, yeah, DMing's just like, I take these points, I guide the people through. We're not really kind of creating this, like, the idea of a collaborative story versus just like a mechanical checklist in a way are two different kinds of D&D. It's where that sort of like gatekeeping-y, grognardy sort of sense versus like, it's nothing but fucking theater kids these days. And like, yeah, there's it's different tables, different groups. Both can coexist and both can exist at the same table. If you have a group good enough to go, let the guy crunch the numbers, let the guy do the voices, let the guy, you know, do that. I'm using guy in a theoretically gendered way, but I do mean it gender neutrally.
Yeah, I don't know, like with there's certain people, you know, friends, when we're messing around, we'll do different voices and everything else like that. I mean, yeah, as long as that's on the table for you, that's on the table. It could be on the table in D&D, you know, it's just what you're comfortable doing. So,
I actively decided not to do a voice for a character I'm playing on it in a different game. I was just like, let's just be me, but like heightened. Like, just like, I was just like, I don't want to, because I wasn't too familiar with the character. So I was like, okay, I just need to know this. And it's what I used to do as an actor, which is like, if I don't have to change my voice, I can spend more time figuring out the character without having to worry about like, do I sound North American enough? So
that's almost in every other game. That's what I do. It's just the only one that's changed.
I can be more in character if I don't have to worry about what I sound like, because half the time you're being mechanical about it.
I would say the Matt Mercer effect, if it's anything, is just that people think, D&D is one thing now, where it's never been one thing. And it's more or less the whole purpose of it. So, you know, the why aren't you Matt Mercer? That's just a very specific thing, but it's popular. But I mean, if that's what you're looking to get, just be clear. Again, session 0.
Yeah.
If that's what you're looking to get, suss it out and be clear. After that, if you haven't done that, it's on you.
Yeah.
But it also requires part of that effect. It also requires a party willing to sit there while you describe a. Like the early days, I used to have like little paragraphs of like, you come to the city and there's like a light breeze going through. And I still do it a little bit, but I just realized that I was kind of like, one, I'm not very good at words in order. So it led to comical moments for goodness, but also embarrassing moments. So I was like, okay, I should dip back into it just for that. In fact, I have for a description of doing more of the fortress city in Hibernia, and I had a lot of fun with it. And like, what I realized was writing it down. So like Lavog's little speech today, I just practiced in my head, but I never wrote it down. I was just like, just hit these points. And like, I think it just came across as succinct as opposed to like flustered. And whereas I just get flustered when I'm like, where am I on this list? But he's very good as a voice actor reading a script and like intonating at the right places. But you also need a party who are willing to, during villain monologues or description scenes, not be like, yeah, we get it. Magical Forest City. We've all seen it on TV. And I can often shortcut to that, being like, it's the castle from Mario 64. And it's like, everyone's like, yeah, great.
Or the what is it, Matrix Reloaded, which was a fight room that we are currently in.
Yeah. It's just like, it's those stairs, it's this thing, it's that. You got it. And sometimes, like, don't be afraid to dip into references everyone can get. Often we don't. I'll be like, something nerdy and very specific to like the three of us who watch a particular anime, and like two of the players will be like, what? I'm like, oh, right, I have to explain this to you.
Yeah.
So the only other question, because I think when I was earlier D&D DMing, I think I was a lot more kind of, I guess, excitable and energetic and stuff like that. But I think I've gone the other way. Not only kind of lose energy, but more kind of like, I want you guys to have, this is your world, so having, like, I will be in it as much as I need to be kind of thing. But I do find now that I'm trying to flip over a little bit more. But I also think the experience of being a DM has also let me going, like, I will describe a city very quickly to give you the atmosphere of how the city looks and stuff like that, but I will not give you a 15-minute monologue of walking in the streets of it and getting the sense of the people and stuff. It's like, it's Gotham. But I'll describe Gotham rather than like, and then if I go to a town, I'm just like, you've been to these towns a million times kind of thing, it's another. But I have found myself kind of changing more, and I think that's pressure that I put on myself rather than my group, the groups that I work with have put on myself. But do you find that you have a Matt Mercer effect because we're doing an entertainment show?
I don't, like obviously an incredible person and DM, and occasionally when, so like Rua's attire in the sort of garden tea party thing would be, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't somewhat influenced by something Matt Mercer did in the campaign too, where he described this like queen of a sort of monster realm. I can never remember like actual details of stuff, which makes me a terrible fan of everything. But it was a beautiful description of her dress and her attire and every this kind of stuff. I was like, that's nice. And I felt quite good about it when Lucy on stream was like, wow. And I was like, I did something. Like, and that's good. Like, but
Personal goal.
yeah, but I wouldn't have thought it was like if I'd failed, I'd be like lashing myself and just being like, banned, Ben. Because I like writing, I like poetry, I like that kind of stuff, and it's a different itch. I think for someone who spends his professional life like writing a script, then being on set and seeing it shot, I have to use two different parts of my brain, and like at times ignore the script when it's like something else is working here. And going from like it's the whole thing of like Sunday Ben versus Tuesday Ben. Sunday Ben writes all the descriptive stuff, very much used to, and then Tuesday Ben like no, like something else. So I wouldn't necessarily say a direct pressure from Bert Garreau, but I do think we have a responsibility because people give us their time to entertain them. I do think there's a certain level of like, thank you for coming and watching, even for Q&As and stuff like that, that it's hopefully an engaging conversation, and based on the chat, it very much looks like it was, which is great. And I feel like I'll sleep well because of that. But that's not anything to do with TTRPG or D&D or streaming. That's just me as like a boy who got either too much or too little attention as a kid, and now like cannot scratch the creativity and performance itch enough.
Because like there's a thing about it that people might not know is that like, especially since if you've joined kind of halfway through this is Ben's first time DMing. Like this is where it started, kind of thing.
4 years ago.
Yeah, 4 years ago. But like,
yeah.
But it is the first time. So like, yeah, it's good that you kind of found it like a sense of self as a DM kind of thing, and you're being influenced and inspired by other methods and other ways, kind of thing, rather than like, because at the start I was just like, I want to be this person who I know is a really good DM, and which was it strides from there, where I was just like, I'm gonna be that person, and then later on you find kind of more your voice as a DM and stuff, and then you find the groups that kind of work with you and stuff, and are more excited about that kind of style and stuff. And then I guess I've gone out the other way, which is more kind of like I want to go back a little bit towards my old version. But it's good that you kind of already found a self, and
I think it's just taking, like, to be honest, about the DMs out there who are incredible, and I hesitate to say this out loud because anyone listening is like, yeah, you're nothing like that. But the two I'd probably take the most inspiration from or aspire most to be like would be Brennan Lee Mulligan on the Dimension 20 stuff, who I think is incredible both at letting his players shine, and he's like, villainous, like making them care. He knows stakes so well, and I'm quite bad at stakes because I'm like, protect my friends. So I'm trying to get better at that. And then like Branson Reese on Root Tales of Magic.
That's straight into killing Tadgh.
yeah. Smash cut.
Probably some kind of middle ground for stakes.
No, nothing. But quite a chaotic, and his NPCs just do not tolerate the party in the most delightful way. Like often the first sentence, like "fuck you, get out of here!" Like, and that's quite a nice, like, chaotic way to do it. And I'm sure a little bit of that has come in, especially when I first came across Root Tales, where I'm like, this is just like, it's entertainment. Like, they are what they call not an actual play, more like a narrative play. And even then, I think they'd call themselves like a dramatic play, which is like, you rarely see the D&D. It's just incredible improvisers around the table telling a lovely story, which can take bizarre twists and turns. And you can very much see Branson's like cartoony, Looney Tunesy brain just like going wild, and the players jumping and on board with it. They recently, apologies if you haven't caught up, but like fought a dragon that was actually like a giant lawn flamingo, and just that kind of stuff. You're like, wow, it's like, but it's that thing, like stats of a dragon, aesthetic of a lawn flamingo. Let's go. Like, and the way they defeated them was some of the most creative D&D playing I've ever listened to, because they just think outside the box. They don't really pay attention. Like, the characters, and they're just like this, and often it's not a hit with sword HP situation. It's a creative thinking outside the box. This is what will work. So yeah, and definitely agree in the chat. The Exandria Unlimited run by Brendan Lee Mulligan was incredible, and he's doing a great job on Port of Bay and Fortune, maybe Favor, which is the most recent Dimension 20. As Captain Pog. Again, terrible at names, terrible at stuff, but great as a player.
So you had a final question.
Final question. Guys, what's love? No. The question was, who do you have a crush on? But I think it was more of a lighthearted question to wrap up the stream. We could talk about, I suppose I just talked about DM crushes just there. I'll happily riff on that after you guys answer on like some of the more local DMs that we have here, because I've, big fans in the Irish space.
This is
but it's,
Sorry, go ahead.
well, what about like in character? I think Randir has a crush in character, and I know that person has a crush back.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Does Randir has a crush on somebody? This is a character.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I've forgotten.
I'm trying to remember the character's name now because
Oh,
I've only been introduced
wow.
twice, which is real
Wow,
bad.
well that's not going to be good.
No, it's not.
She's going to be...
She's not going to be impressed by that.
Think of Wes as Arlington giving out to this person, and you might be able to like.
Yeah.
Think of my favorite beers.
Marshmallow Lady.
Yeah. No.
Is it Sour Sue or something like that? I can't remember her name. What's her name?
Yeah, you're very close.
You were very close, as was Isaac. In
Something
chat.
Susie.
Yeah, Sarah Susie.
Sarah
Susan.
Sarah Suze.
Yeah.
Sarah Susie.
Sarah Susie.
Yeah,
Or
no,
just Susie.
I think that was a character choice in the sense that everybody seemed to hate her, and
Not me.
well, no, obviously Huck doesn't Huck wants to be friends with everybody kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think everybody was so drowned, like kind of going, I think it was just funny to have Randir kind of been suddenly, especially since her magic was to build a bar immediately, which I do think her character was just like.
It was good RPing. It made sense. It was good fun, and it's something Ben didn't anticipate.
Yeah, no. I was
so-
like, ooh, we're doing a little bit of romance, which was nice. And we'll pick it up when you guys rekindle.
But as for kind of D&D stuff, Matt Mercer is probably the simplest one of kind of like, I guess, but probably this like if it's Griffin McElroy as well.
Sweet baby brother, the sweetest boy.
Him, like his interweaving of Tadgh, the first season was really, really good, and then I guess Justin has also been very, very good in the sense of I've loved his characters. Taco and a couple of others have been amazing. Just kind of choosing one aspect and kind of playing with them with the characters. So I guess Matt Mercer and Griffin McElroy for DMing kind of styles and stuff like that, and then probably Justin on kind of a character, choosing a character, sticking with that concept, having them actually having them character development, but still having a through line throughout their thing was really cool.
His playing in Tiny Heist is incredible. I don't know if you've seen that, but he plays a Lego man with multiple like outfits. Great. Kelan.
Yes.
Any crushes?
I mean, yeah, I don't know. So I don't listen to.
It doesn't have to be that. It can be like my partner.
Yeah, Claire would kill me.
She's already dead.
No, well, I was trying to think of like my equivalent for that because I don't do those things. So there is the one tabletop that I do listen to is not critical, not true. What's it called? Film Reroll, and they use a GURPS system, which to role play film scripts that already exist. I respect the various people in that and the DMs. They're all actors as well, so it is one of those things. And the main guy who I can't remember the name of, like I said, it's been a while since I've listened to it, puts in so much work in his systems, and I like the way he presents everything. And they all kind of, as a result of that, when other players then DM stuff, they all have their kind of version of the GURP system within that he set up, and they discuss the nature of the film. So I like that. That's very much in my ballpark. Wheelpark's not a thing, is it? Wheelhouse ballpark.
Ballpark.
Ballhouse.
Ballpark.
It's in my ballhouse and it's in my wheelpark. All right. Those common things. The other stuff, though, I watch a lot of Korean TV and Korean like game shows and films and stuff like that. Always kind of had for various reasons. There's some directors that I like of those shows that do kind of like the wackier game type things. So one of them is a guy called Na PD or Park Na-young. The most famous producer in Korea of a very specific type of thing. He can basically do what he wants. He has a YouTube channel that's which has some great bits. There's Game Caterers where he games with turns up because he used to just do television famous game shows. He now just turns up to like sets as a kind of on lease guy who just sets up like everyone gets to play a bunch of games and then he films them and they're all just like actors, etc. So him I really like and respect. And there's another guy called Young Jung Young or something along those lines, who did a show called The Genius, which is what got me into a lot of the Korean shows. And it is the best reality TV that I've ever seen, which I guess is underselling it if you don't like the word reality TV, but really it's like not got any of the kind of horrible side of cuts and everything. I encourage people to look up in Korea. I think season 1's on YouTube.
Sorry, what was of The Genius?
The Genius. Yeah.
The Genius, yeah. He's done lots of stuff. He likes doing game style shows. He's done a show called The Great Escape, which was like escape rooms on large scale in an hour and a half where people have to like narratively escape. They arrive, they're blindfolded, they don't know what's going on, and then like one of them's like there's zombies everywhere, and then they have to run away from them. They get terrified very easily. There's time travel, there's parallel universes. Like he chucks a lot at it, and the budget he gets is insane for that stuff. So I don't know. Those people I have crushes on because of how clever they've managed to get games on TV. That's the most similar thing I can suggest.
Yeah, nice. I think that brings us to the end of our Q&A. You're wondering, do I have a crush on? I'll never tell. I have a crush on every boy. But yes, thank you so much for watching along, indulging us a little bit. I appreciate it. It is a little bit indulgent to Q&As, but we enjoy talking about it. Hopefully you enjoy listening to it. Hopefully it gives you a greater sense of us as people, which will enhance your enjoyment of the show itself. Yes, Isaac, you got my reference of Teen Girl Squad.
That's that. There's a High School Mystery. I think if he's looked up anything of The Genius or the thing, he also did an escape room thing with female people. It's called High School Girls Mystery. There's 2 seasons of that. It's great. So.
That is our recommendation on YouTube. We can't necessarily raid, but you can just raid the rest of the content on here. So go look up The Great Escape, The Genius, High School Girl Mystery.
Yeah,
nice. Yeah. We will, of course, be back in 2 weeks' time. That is October 11th for a special one-shot still set in Hibernia called Arcane Investigators. That will have Paul, Wes, and Lucy, all going well, myself DMing it. Until then, do look after yourselves, be sound, good night, and joy be with you all.
Bye-bye. If you want to keep asking questions, go to the Discord.
Yeah, head to the Discord.
And look forward to the Game of Death.
Game of Death.
Game of Death.
Game of Death.